Hello and welcome. I am your host, Grant Johnson from Red News, and I'm here to talk about the news for today. For today's podcast recording, I'm going to be talking about the upcoming G20 summit in India. U.S. President Joe Biden is currently on his way to New Delhi, India, for the upcoming G20 summit and will be meeting with other world leaders. Before President Biden left the United States to New Delhi, India, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan had told the press on September 5th that President Biden will be meeting with the leaders of developing economies in the G20 and will be encouraging those countries to work more with the United States and grow a strong connection between the developing countries and the fully developed countries in North America, Europe, and East Asia. It's important to mention that China's President Xi Jinping will not be attending the G20 summit in New Delhi, India. Two key topics will be discussed at the G20 summit in New Delhi, India, which those two topics include economic development and, of course, climate change. The summit itself will be lasting for 2 days, and more information about what was discussed will be released to the public once the summit is over. U.S. President Joe Biden could use the lack of President Xi Jinping as an opportunity at the G20 summit to encourage those countries in the developing world to work closer with the United States and essentially tell those countries that it would be better for them to work with the United States because of China's Belt and Road Initiative that would not work in their favor, because of the large amount of debt that would be accumulated over time, and to pay it off as well. It's also important to mention that Russian President Vladimir Putin will also not be attending the G20 summit in New Delhi, India, due to the warrant out for his arrest for the war in Ukraine. This isn't to say that China and Russia would not be involved in the G20 meeting, but there will be two representatives from the Russian Federation and the People's Republic of China that will be at the summit. That will be all for today's podcast recording, but if you didn't already, follow the Red News Official Podcast on different podcast platforms, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and other such platforms where you can listen to the Red News Official Podcasts. You can also support the Red News Official Podcasts on Patreon as well. For more Red News, you can go to the Red News Official website and read up on news articles and follow the social media links on different social media platforms, which the links to those can be found on the Red News Official website. Thank you for listening to the Red News Official Podcast. I am your host, Grant Johnson from Red News, and I will catch you in the next one.